We'll kick off the level with an insane theory about the Illuminate that, if true, would be the ultimate plot twist. For some context, as a reminder, according to the Super Earth Federation, after the First Galactic War, the Illuminate were eradicated. Completely. Full stop. Unlike the Terminids that were sent to a farm to grow and harvest for oil, and the cyborgs that were forcefully democratized and sent into the mines to gather resources, the Illuminate were allegedly dispatched. Their technology was stolen and adapted for Super Earth's use. But the technology that Super Earth stole was not only their faster-than-light space travel technology, they also took weapon technology and, of course, adapted their AI technology. We also know that the system that runs managed democracy is also managed by an AI system. Quote, mankind has improved upon the old concept of democracy. Utilizing computer-aided voting software, citizens are asked several questions. The outcome of their vote is decided upon by the computer. This removes the uncertainty that existed in the old systems where voters didn't fully understand what they were voting for, giving us managed democracy. End quote. Is it so crazy to take one more step here, to think that maybe, just maybe, Super Earth isn't quite as in control as they think they are? What if the same technology that was taken from the Illuminate is somehow still being controlled by, or is otherwise working at the behest of the Illuminate? There are some holes in the theory, admittedly. Super Earth does seem to be doing what it wants to do, sending Helldivers out to farm Terminids for oil, but what if that's only what the Illuminate wants? Better yet, what if Super Earth actually lost the First Galactic War, and the Illuminate never left? They actually took over Super Earth without the population realizing, and now they secretly control the entire planet. It's possible that they were already farming Terminids for fuel. What's to say they aren't using humans for that same purpose? Why send your own citizens into a Terminid hive when you could just send a bunch of expendable Helldivers? The flip side of this coin is that perhaps Super Earth is acting of its own volition, but the Illuminate are still cruising around the galaxy, and rather than attack Super Earth directly, they're manipulating the forces of both the Terminids and the automatons and cyborgs. It's already been discussed that there isn't a good answer for how the Terminids are jumping from solar system to solar system, and while it's possible that Super Earth is the one doing it, it's also possible that the Illuminate are seeding different planets with bugs to chip away at Super Earth's defenses. The weaker they can make Super Earth, the easier it will be to come in and finish us off. Zombie army of automatons. We all know that automatons are mindless killing machines, right? Right? But what if they weren't always that way? Or rather, what if automatons don't start out as robots at all? What if instead it's an army made entirely of Helldivers? Former Helldivers, to be exact. That's right. I'm suggesting that when they win in battle, the automatons, as if they were necromancers, take the brains of fallen Helldivers and turn them into new automatons. Stick with me for a moment. I know there might be some plot holes here, but I'll get to them. But first, it would explain quite a lot. Despite the Helldivers being fairly untrained, they do manage to destroy many times more automatons than the number of Helldivers that are killed. In fact, if you zoom in on any given planet, it looks like for every one Helldiver that dies in combat, roughly 30 automatons are destroyed. Which is honestly the biggest plot hole in the theory. The automatons would simply run out of bodies with which to create new automatons. But I have a solution. We believe the automatons have been created by the cyborgs, but we also know that they exist at the edge of our known galaxy. In addition, after the Super Earth Federation originally announced the eradication of all the automatons, they then returned with a force that dwarfed the original Vanguard, and they returned from outside the known galaxy. This would suggest that we simply don't know what is outside the bounds of our map, and it's possible that the automatons are spread much further than we originally believed. And perhaps they aren't just harvesting the bodies of fallen Helldivers, but also countless other planets that Super Earth has never traveled to. This might explain a few things. First, the automatons are not especially skilled. Again, we know this because even a poorly trained Helldiver is able to take out 20 to 30 on their own. I say on their own lightly because they do have the full support of the Super Earth armed forces at their command, They're able to call in gigantic bombs with the push of a few buttons, something the automatons don't exactly have the same capability to do. Although that would be a wild addition to the game. If the automatons are recycled Helldivers, this might explain why they make such poor soldiers, though. Helldivers are not especially talented to begin with, so if they were reborn by the automatons, it might make sense that they're even less effective after death than before. Second, the automatons do retain some human characteristics. Yes, it is possible that they are somehow instilled with, or maybe installed is the right word. They're installed with some of these human characteristics by proxy of their cyborg creators. But what if instead these leftover tendencies actually come from the brain of the Helldiver that's piloting the automaton? We see them frequently go on marches and recite chants. Those chants might not be anything like what the Helldivers do, but it might just be whatever human nature is left over, prompting them to follow orders and be part of a group. I don't think this will stop any Helldivers from eliminating the bots, but it does make you think. Terminids are super weapons. We've talked a lot about Terminids, where they come from, how they were created, how they got around the galaxy, but the one thing we haven't talked about too much is the true reason for their existence. Yes, obviously Super Earth and possibly the Illuminate farmed them for space fuel, but their existence and purpose might go much further. We know from the First Galactic War that humanity stopped just short of completely annihilating the Terminids, stating that it would be a waste to completely eliminate them. Instead, Super Earth began to farm them. Quote, "As schoolchildren know, Terminids were allowed to live in specialized locations on human worlds known as farms. Despite this generosity, the Terminids showed their fascist nature by slaughtering the innocent civilians of the world." End quote. And of course, we've already discussed that Super Earth has performed all kinds of experiments on the bugs that probably led to the conflict of the Second Galactic War. But this theory goes even deeper. We know that Super Earth is ruthless when it comes to squashing dissidents. They stop at nothing, creating false flag attacks, all with the purpose of justifying an invasion of Helldivers to put down a rebellion. But what if we discovered a more effective way? A way that would eliminate any political consequences, while also producing more resources to harvest? Perhaps, when Super Earth discovers localized insurrections, they launch a barrage of Terminids to wipe out that rebellion. And once the insurrectionists are wiped out in that region, they send in the Helldivers to take care of the bugs, harvesting more fuel while they're at it. Put so eloquently by a crew member, quote, "For the automatons and Terminids, for mankind and for glory, that's why we fight. And of course, when we've won this war, there'll be another to fight. And after that, another. After that, another. I could go on, but you get my point. Let's focus on this war." End quote. There simply will not be an end to the war because there will always be those that oppose the Super Earth Federation. So, there will always be a planet that gets a surprise package of Terminids followed by a Helldiver cleanup crew. Further proof of this idea lies in the fact that the Helldivers are frozen while on board the ship, being thawed out when it's time to go kill some bugs. But what about all the other crew members on board? None of them are frozen. What are they all doing? What if some of these ship crew members are there to monitor the status of the bug invasion sent by the Super Earth government? Once they can verify that any rebels have been taken out, it's time to thaw out the Helldivers and shoot them down from orbit. Lastly, think back to those broadcast towers that the Helldivers have to shut down on occasion. What if the very people that set up those broadcast towers are the ones being snuffed out by a fresh delivery of Terminids right on their doorstep? If you think about it, the people that set up those broadcast towers are never present when you show up as a Helldiver. Where did they go? Once you start thinking about the war from this perspective, it's really hard to see it from any other way. All the more reason I'm sure Super Earth doesn't want you watching this video. Super Earth is not Earth. That brings us all the way to the bottom of this iceberg, with an idea that might just flip what you know about the galaxy on its head. If you played the first Helldivers, you might know that it was possible to lose the war. The game itself is an endless loop of wars. Sometimes humanity wins, and sometimes it loses. Quote, "We have failed, my friend. Super Earth has fallen, and the fleet is scattered across the galaxy. But we will endure. rebuild our civilization, and eventually we will return stronger than ever to claim vengeance. For now, we'll have to trek the galaxy for a planet that can become our new home, a new super Earth." End quote. This is followed by a cutscene of alien ships approaching the Earth and then of our planet exploding. You're then greeted with a little more flavor text about your loss. Quote, "As Super Earth lies in ruins, humanity scatters. Not even our greatest warriors could hold back the tide of an alien threat. A three-front war that we lost due to our greed and hubris. But there are many worlds like Old Earth, and we will find another where we will put down roots anew. We will rebuild, and we will have our revenge. Eventually." End quote. Most of the time, it's assumed that Helldivers 2 and the Second Galactic War is taking place after a successful war campaign the first time around. That's at least what Super Earth tells us. But when have we ever taken the word of Super Earth at face value? They would want their soldiers to think that they're unstoppable. What would be the point of telling them that their enemies had won on the first go-around? I think that it's entirely possible that the Super Earth we see in Helldivers 2 is not actually the original Earth. You might be asking, what about that map of Old Earth with the uninhabitable zones? Well, I'm sure that those areas definitely existed on Old Earth, but there really isn't anything to say that those exist on Super Earth. In fact, we never really get to see Super Earth, so we don't really even know what's there in the first place. What would really be fascinating is if eventually players were forced all the way back to Super Earth in order to defend it, possibly from the combined forces of the Illuminate, cyborgs, automatons, and Terminids. I'm not sure what chance the Helldivers would stand in that scenario, but it would definitely be fun to fight in that war. At the end of the day, all a Helldiver can do is spread democracy as far as they can.